Hello, I'm Pip Courtney. Welcome to A Taste of Landline. On the show today, farming emus for oil.
There's a number of uses, good for skin, good for joints.
How conservation can pay its way on a successful farm.
I'm very passionate about conservation, I'm very passionate about farming, I'm very passionate about marrying the two.
And we meet the man who's been delivering fresh fruit and veg for more than half a century.
Hello, I'm Tim Lee. In the early 1990s, emus were tipped to be the next big thing in Australian agriculture. Unfortunately, it never lived up to the hype. But for those producers who stayed loyal, the rewards are starting to come. In 25 years, Ian Marston has learnt a great deal about emus. For us, a simple whistle is for them an emergency distress call.
They are very Jurassic Park type bird.
Birds not only emerged during the Jurassic period, they evolved from dinosaurs. Flightless birds such as emus, ostriches and cassowaries even today resemble dinosaurs.
They are inquisitive and they are mesmerising a lot of times, especially when they're chicks. You can sit there all day and watch these chicks running up and down and doing things.
Ian Marsden was a career soldier and an expert in military weapons systems. In 1993, he and his wife made the tree change to a hobby farm-sized block at The Rock, south of Wagga Wagga.
We had 100 acres and I thought to myself, I'm not going to be a millionaire growing cattle and sheep, so what I'll do, I'll grow emus. And what I found out is you're not going to be a millionaire growing emus either, but it was an alternate farming, so we got into it a little bit.
In central Victoria, Phil Lacey and Wigan Shiletsky are trailblazers of the emu industry.
It's been up and down, but there's been a lot of good times as well. So, and it definitely tests your character.
At its peak, there were an estimated 500 emu farmers nationwide. Today, there are less than a dozen.
The survivors left over, picked up the bits and continued on. And we're one of the survivors.
When the industry collapsed, hundreds of tonnes of emu products lay dormant in cold storage. For about 8 years after the slump, Ian Marsden did nothing with his birds but collect and sell their eggs.
In that time period, it seemed to have culled out snake oil salesmen and people like that, and now the people that are in the industry are very genuine people and trying to find better ways of production of the bird and better ways of marketing.
At 18 months of age, Ian Marsden's emus are trucked to an abattoir in Victoria for slaughter. Then at a rendering plant at Castlemaine, the valuable oil is extracted from the emu fat.
The oil is just fantastic.
It's, I don't know, it's like a natural Mother Nature vitamin pill.
A biologically active oil is something that has benefits to treat or heal diseases. And apparently emu oil has a lot of anti-inflammatory activity, and different types of emus, different levels of anti-inflammatories.
Every batch is quality tested and the distilled oil is sent to Sydney to be made into digestible capsules. Ian Marsden swears by it.
There's a number of uses, good for skin conditions, good for joints. It appears to not improve arthritis, but relief from arthritis and joint pains and things like that. And I find it's good as well for the gut.
We worked with a couple of scientists. One of them was up in Queensland, Michael Whitehouse at the Brisbane Alexander Hospital. And he had a passion for it as well, and we just clicked. And he studied the oil. He said it's well worth pursuing, that there's vital biological active components in emu oil that should be investigated.
Those findings helped get the oil registered with the Therapeutic Goods Administration. The research found that emus have enormous genetic diversity. The oil from coastal or rainforest birds is vastly different to that from desert or arid zone birds.
So there are some properties of the birds themselves which are important. And then Phil has done a lot of pioneering work on feed.
Breeders believe careful crossbreeding will bring further genetic gains. Emu oil has proven anti-inflammatory properties and a growing band of fans.
For its use for treating inflammatory bowel disease, and this has been confirmed in the School of Medicine in Adelaide. Some people find it very helpful for treating asthma because that's a very powerful inflammation in the lungs, and they found that actually by putting this into their diet, miraculously it helps control the inflammation. And then I've been particularly interested in arthritis, and I've got a swag of testimonials on this too.
So breakfast time, Ian. Yep, breakfast here at the ranch. I've got a nice mixture of crumble. It's called grower pullet, and it's just normal chook food. Well, we feed them every second day now. It just keeps their vitamins going, and then we just spread this out so that they get it evenly, so that one just doesn't pig out. See, we've got a bigger one here. He looks after them. Sometimes we like to leave a big one here to keep the foxes away from the little chicks, and they bond in fairly well together.
A quarter of a century since emu farming began, these birds are quicker growing, more docile and better understood.
Good to see, something you've worked on for 25 years finally coming to fruition. It was there a lot of stages. It's there. I've got 2 paddocks of emus. What am I going to do with them, And we fed them and we kept them, and eventually all that product that we had in storage went. We thought, I better start breeding some more again. Come on, here we go.
With the industry at last coming of age, he feels vindicated. But he has a dilemma. His retirement age is looming. Does he scale up or scale down?
And we're still learning, like any industry, we're still learning, but our learning curve is not as steep as it used to be.
We've seen quite a few of the multinationals come in and buy up naturals companies because they have the faith in the naturals market.
Hello, I'm Sean Murphy. There's an old saying in farming that it's hard to be green if you're in the red. But what if conservation could actually pay and contribute to the bottom line? At historic Womargama Station in the southwest slopes region of New South Wales, the journey to market begins for this mob of poll Hereford steers. They've been fed exclusively on the 1,800 hectare station's abundant pastures, and they'll attract a healthy, grass-fed premium. But there's also added appeal for discerning buyers at the top end of the market. A third of Womargama has been set aside in a conservation covenant to protect its unique biodiversity in perpetuity. That means permanently. 600 hectares that can never be cleared and is being managed according to an agreement with the Nature Conservation Trust of New South Wales.
I'm very passionate about conservation. I'm very passionate about farming. I'm very passionate about marrying the two. So I think in the short term, people might see this as maybe a little bit of a risky move, but in the long term, I think this area of the property will be the jewel in the crown of the property, even from a capital value. So Gary, here's some of our girls enjoying spring.
Fantastic.
You can see it's somewhere in there's the bull. It's up the back there, looking happy.
Yes.
Under the terms of the covenant, Womargama can still graze its cattle and sheep in the covenant area.
We're not looking to lock up land. It's very much about finding a happy medium where it works for both biodiversity and for the farming operation. And in fact, bringing cattle in here under an appropriate regime actually looks after the biodiversity rather than being detrimental to it.
Make no mistake, Womargama is a viable business, and Claire Cannon is determined to show that conservation can pay.
We produce grass-fed only beef, which has quite stringent accreditation. So we put the steers in this country quite a lot, and it's actually a symbiotic relationship between the cattle and this country. It's all about brand reputation. So we want to be at the high end. I think that's the only place to be. We've spent a lot of time in Australia talking about the provenance of food. So obviously with our beef, that's of interest. But the next great step will be the provenance of your clothes.
Womargama has about 7,500 fine wool producing merino sheep. Claire Cannon is banking on the provenance of their fibre also producing healthy returns in the future.
We've also put the Nature Conservation Trust label on our wool, saying that from time to time the sheep that produce the wool that we sell graze in this covenant country, managed by the Nature Conservation Trust. And that's certainly provided quite a high level of interest from wool buyers, particularly in Europe, but also the Chinese buyers.
Womargama's conservation covenant is an extension of decades of land care started by Claire Cannon's late parents, Gordon and Margaret Darling, who bought the property 51 years ago. This regrowth is some of the estimated 100,000 trees planted along the station's creeks and ridgelines.
And revegetation's got a really significant role to play in the landscape, given that there's been so much vegetation cleared. And it really fits in nicely with what Claire's doing with protecting the remnant bushland that she's
Environmental consultant Sam Niedra was instrumental in convincing Claire Cannon to set aside the 600-hectare covenant when he was working for the Conservation Trust in 2013. He saw the opportunity to create a natural corridor between the Womargama National Park and the Benambra Nature Reserve.
Womargama Station, given that it was over 600 hectares in area that we're talking about with the covenant, it was really the jewel in the crown, or the icing on the cake, to really help link up those two reserves. It's not complete, but it's a long way down the track to improving and protecting the connectivity between those two public land areas.
But first he had to convince Claire Cannon of the area's conservation value.
I was pretty nervous, but I really said, well, that's great. What is there? And so they said, well, we think this, this and this is there. But I said, we need to know.
The result was a Bio Blitz, a 3-day community event to record what was in the Covenant area's rare and endangered boxgum grassy woodlands.
And the whole aim of the event was to get local residents and school kids, we had 7 local schools involved, getting people out of their lounge rooms, out into the bush, searching for animals, and in activities led by expert ecologists. So we had ecologists from Charles Sturt Uni, Australian National Uni, and a bunch of other organisations.
Yes, so the grasses are looking fantastic. They're all seeding.
David Watson is the Professor of Ecology at Charles Sturt University. He was one of the experts at the BioBlitz.
It's a privilege to come to a place like this. It's a working farm, it's a profitable farm, but it's one of the most pristine, best managed woodlands in southern Australia. It's grassy, it's boxgum grassy woodland. It's a desperately rare kind of habitat, and these sorts of bits left are precious. They're not in national parks, because national parks typically are the unproductive country that was left uncleared, that nobody wanted. But this place has been so well managed for so long, we're now all, benefiting from it. And just listen to what's around us. There's all sorts of woodland birds, there's holes from squirrel gliders, there's carpet pythons creeping around the rocks.
At Womargama Station, the goal is for a balance between profit and conservation.
Well, you got to walk the middle path. I think, it's very important to make money on a property because otherwise you can't improve the quality of your stock. You can't improve, maybe your watering systems for, stock water. You can't plant trees. All these things take money. But on the other hand, we need to preserve our landscape. What you want to create is resilient landscapes.
The wilderness out here is just amazing wilderness, and it's great to showcase it to the world.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Nichols. For nearly 70 years, the man you're about to meet has been home delivering fresh fruit and vegetables to customers on Queensland's Sunshine Coast. He started as a teenager, and now, after clocking up millions of kilometres on ever-changing roads, he's completed his final deliveries. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and 86-year-old Rolly Lennox is packing up his van and heading off to work. There's a 2.5-hour drive ahead from his home in the Noosa hinterland to the Brisbane markets. It's a trip Rolly has made every fortnight to buy fresh fruit and vegetables for his home delivery business. And he does it whatever the weather. But today marks the end of an era. This is Rolly's last run in a job he's made remarkable. He began as a teenager in the late 1940s, learning his work ethic and trade as one of 4 children helping out on the family's dairy and market farm.
Grandfather on mum's side, he used to grow veggies and take them to Pomona and sell them on horse and cart.
Bumpy, rough roads and farms have been transformed.
All out this side of Brisbane, and they used to grow early pumpkins, and now it's nothing but houses.
When he started, Brisbane's markets were based in Roma Street. There were no workplace health and safety laws banning bare feet or cigarettes. Forklifts and pallets didn't exist. Produce was moved 1 box at a time. Fast forward to 2018, and Rolly's arriving at a vastly different operation in Rocklea. Brisbane Markets Limited covers 77 hectares, processing 600,000 tonnes of produce from 7,000 growers. For one last time, Rolly picked choice produce for his customers and said his goodbyes.
You're going out with a bit of fancy, eh?
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
You'll end up getting a job in Hollywood.
Amongst the 4,000 people doing business here today, Rolly's a rarity, not just for his age, but his independent home delivery service.
When I started here 30-odd years ago, there would have been 30 or 40 backing them to the back dock line doing home calls. There's virtually none of them.
We'll miss you. I know. I'm going to miss you too.
Thank you.
Good on you.
So much has changed since the 1940s, including the traffic. The one constant? Rolly's reliability.
In all the times I've been going, I've never lost one day through sickness.
He's never needed to advertise. Business grew by word of mouth. Customers became friends.
Hello, Mrs. Berry.
It's hard to beat this for service.
I'll help you down with this.
Rolly's been delivering to Helen Berry since 1951.
For 67 years he's been serving me vegetables every 2 weeks. I think it's a pretty good record, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those oranges doesn't look too bad either.
He was a huge help when she was a busy working mum with 5 children. Now he's a welcome visitor. Rolly's delivered for 3 generations of the 91-year-old's family.
It's been a really big help for Mum because, getting older, it's hard for her to get around. So that side's going to be really missed, him not delivering. And, very good company for Mum.
There you are. I think you're right there now.
Keeping up with this vital 86-year-old had us on the run. Rolly delivers to 70 customers over 3 days every fortnight. But he doesn't know their addresses or street names, just the people and how to get there.
How do you do it all without a mobile phone, Rolly?
Well, when you haven't had one, you never miss it. Never miss it. Same with the computers. I've got nothing to do with computers or any of that modern stuff. Yeah, well, I don't know whether you want honey today or not. I see you got a bottle there. I think you want some honey.
Elva Tomlinson and her brother George Martin always share a cuppa before getting down to business. Rolly's van is a grocery shop on wheels.
You want some sweet potatoes, do you?
Yeah, mate, just 2. Yeah.
Today's offerings include peaches, bananas, zucchinis, corn, potatoes and tasty sugar plums.
I'm going to miss you, Rolly, when you're not coming around, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to miss seeing you all too.
Rolly's been coming to our family before I was born. I'm 70 years of age and it's a shame that Rolly's finishing up. Yeah, but I understand that as you get older you can't do things like you would like to do.
A bung right knee has made deliveries a lot tougher of late, and although Rolly could power a planet with his determination, lugging heavy boxes up steps, climbing over gates and pushing through the pain was losing its allure.
So, Rolly, are you calling this retirement?
No way. I'm only just stopping my fruit and veggies. We got cattle and we got bees.
The we in Rolly Lennox's life is his 88-year-old brother, Des. Together they run cattle on the family farm they bought from their parents. The brothers have been keeping bees since the 1970s.
Yeah. Well, they're putting all new fresh honey in those inns. There's honey coming in.
They harvest, process and sell honey from 30 hives locally and to a commercial operator. But don't expect the men to suit up for the job.
Rolly, did anybody ever tell you that usually people wear protective gear when they're doing this?
Yeah, they do. But we haven't got any honey avail.
Des lives in the original farmhouse without a working phone or power.
Lamb's trap.
He drives down the hill to make meals every day, making use of the veggies Rolly buys at the markets and the produce they grow at home.
What is it about you, Lennox brothers, that keeps you so active well into your 80s?
Probably good breeding or something. I don't know what it was. Blessed to us as we eat it. In Jesus' name we thank you for it. Amen.
The Lennox brothers share a deep faith in God. Des gave land for a youth camp to Teen Missions International Australia. That was where Rolly met the love of his life, an American, Linda Lee Asher. They married when he was 58.
They're obviously very much in love and just sitting on the chair beside each other, holding hands.
It's just what you maybe don't often see in a couple of that age, but it was really lovely.
He lost her to a brain tumour 10 years later.
Girl.
Now it's just 2 bachelor brothers and their ever hopeful dogs.
Obviously, to a lot of people these days, it's maybe seen as a hard lifestyle or a difficult lifestyle, but it's just what they see as normal.
It's hard for Rolly's customers to say goodbye.
You've been a huge asset to the community with your service and friendship. You are a wonderful man who deserves a well-earned cuppa. That's what she gave me, the cuppa.
But no doubt he'll be dropping in. Rolly Lennox has strong views against too much time spent indoors and farmers retiring.
They get sick and tired of fishing. They come home, sit on the lounge chair watching the idiot box. And they only last a few months and they're dead and they are 6 foot under after that. I'm going to keep going so I don't do that.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget we're also on Facebook and we'd love to hear from you. On our next episode of A Taste of Landline, what it takes to get your morning eggs.
We probably produce over 70 million dozen eggs a year and we sell them right across Australia.
The farming family with true grit.
Like any family, it has its ups and downs, but I think we're a pretty good crew.
And Landline's own Sean Murphy shows us his beautiful hometown.